Hey everyone, I'm Chris Scott, founder of Fit Recovery. I wanted to do a video on the top 20 alcohol withdrawal vitamins and supplements. I did an article that's pretty comprehensive on this subject a while ago, and I figured it would be useful to have a video to go along with it and expand on some more information and give some updated information as well. So let's get right to it. The first thing I want to talk about is benzodiazepines. These are actually not supplements, to be clear. They have to be prescribed by a doctor. But the reason I'm including them here is I didn't realize when I quit drinking that I could actually have a seizure if I stopped suddenly, and that's because I had a severe case of alcohol withdrawal. So the most common benzodiazepines that you'll find at detox centers are Librium, Ativan, and Valium. There are also others which I discuss on my website, Fit Recovery. Benzos are usually prescribed for moderate to severe withdrawal. Usually a doctor will do some kind of assessment to figure out how long you've been drinking, how much you've been drinking, but it's definitely a good thing to get these because Ativan saved my life. I was not focused on supplementation until I had quit drinking and detoxed. So that's really the first step. I don't want to give anyone the illusion that if you're at risk of having a seizure because you've been drinking so much that you can just take a bunch of supplements. Sometimes these more drastic measures are needed. So with that said, I easily tapered off of Ativan under a doctor's supervision, and it was gradually over the course of the next year because no one at Detox knew anything about supplementation. I had to figure it out for myself. Over the course of the next year, I discovered all of these supplements that I'm about to share with you, and my life would have been a lot easier if I had discovered them before, right when I was at Detox. I wish someone had given me a PDF containing the information in this slideshow so that I would have been able to start feeling better, actually rebalancing my system. Benzodiazepines and other drugs are short-term measures to make sure that you don't have horrific withdrawal symptoms, but they don't do anything to fix the underlying biochemical imbalances that are caused by long-term chronic alcohol consumption. So yeah, you may be able to obtain a prescription to detox without expensive treatment. Not everyone has to go into inpatient rehab. It's very expensive, but sometimes necessary. You can often go to your doctor, and if they decide that it's a good idea, they might give you a prescription for benzodiazepines that you can use to taper off of over the course of a few weeks at most. Usually about 7 days, but sometimes a few weeks. All right, so I want to mention the existence of nutrient support formulas. There are some very good supplements that have been designed specifically to repair alcohol-induced neurotransmitter and nutrient deficiencies. And so what's happened over the course of the last year or so is that the FDA has become extremely strict on what it allows labels to say on supplements, because these are not drugs. They're not approved by the FDA. So I want to mention the existence of these formulas, such as Calm Support, which is one of my favorite. These supplements contain a lot of the other nutrients that I'll be talking about in this video. So before you go out and buy all of them from Amazon or whatever, you might want to check out a few. I talk about some different formulas on my website, Fit Recovery. There are always some new ones coming out. They have to be very careful with the labeling because you can't have a supplement called alcohol withdrawal supplement. The FDA will take it down, even if all of the nutrients have been proven in studies to help with alcohol withdrawal. You just can't say that anymore. But there are a lot of good calming blends. There's some on Amazon. So this is something that I also wanted to mention before I get into the nitty-gritty of exactly which nutrients you will need to feel your best after quitting drinking. So yes, you can also save money if you have these nutrient support formulas because you're not going out and buying 15 supplements at once. You're just buying, one or two, and then filling in the gaps with the other nutrients that aren't in these formulas. So I think it's a really good idea to use a multivitamin, multimineral after you quit drinking, just to cover any gaps that you might not be getting from your diet. And the fact is that it's very difficult to get everything you need from diet alone after you quit drinking. So I had the best results with high potency sports vitamins. My favorite one is called Legion Triumph, and that actually had such an impact on so many people after I initially wrote my first article on alcohol withdrawal supplements that Legion Athletics, which is a really cool company founded by a guy I admire a lot named Mike Matthews, but they sent me an email saying, hey, thank you for referring so many people to us. They've actually written to us and said that they've been using our supplement after they quit drinking to start feeling better, and it's really been working for them. So they thanked me for that, and it was a really nice exchange. Unexpected. I didn't expect to hear from them, but I guess so many people had written to them who had read my article that they decided to reach out to me and tell me that a lot of people had benefited from this use that they, I guess, hadn't even occurred to them. I mean, for them, it's a sports vitamin and mineral, and it contains all sorts of things. It has herbs, vitamins, and minerals. Not everything that you would need after you quit drinking to feel your best, but in my opinion, it's probably the best value multivitamin after you quit drinking if you want to cover all those bases. B vitamins are hugely important after you quit drinking. You might be familiar with the fact that alcohol severely depletes B vitamins. The symptoms of B vitamin deficiency include nervous exhaustion, loss of libido, and insanity. A lot of hospitals even inject vitamin B1 into patients who are going through alcohol withdrawal, because in severe cases of alcohol addiction, you can have something called wet brain, which we'll get into in the next slide. But basically that's caused by vitamin B1 deficiency. It's very important to take B vitamins after you quit drinking. I took I think it was a Kirkland B complex just from Costco. After I quit drinking, I took that for about 6 months, and I definitely noticed that my mental clarity started coming back. My energy levels started gradually coming back when I started taking those B vitamins. So the reason I have thiamine, or vitamin B1 specifically, in this video is because it is arguably the most important vitamin for alcohol recovery. It's the most well known. The deficiency is the most well known. As I say, even hospitals, doctors, a lot of doctors, actually most doctors don't take classes in medical school about either nutrition or addiction, but they are all familiar with the fact that vitamin B1 deficiency is a huge deal for people who have been drinking for a long period of time. So you might want to consider taking extra B1, or just making sure that your B complex contains a lot of it. Typically, because B vitamins are all pretty safe, there are only a few that can cause discomfort in high doses. You don't want to take too much vitamin B6 or way too much niacin, but vitamin B1 is very safe in high doses. It tends to be consumed in the thousands % DV for each vitamin B complex that you'll find. Vitamin C is also very important, and it is non-toxic at very high doses. People have taken up to 125 grams or more, which is a huge amount of vitamin C, and not experienced any toxicity. Vitamin C detoxifies every cell in your body. It reduces inflammation. If I could go back in time, I would take liposomal vitamin C immediately after I stopped drinking. It's very efficiently absorbed, and it's easier on the stomach. The typical vitamin C supplements that you'll find in stores are, if you take them up to a gram, or if you take more than a gram, you're probably going to have an upset stomach. The cool thing about liposomal supplements is that it's basically like there's a layer of the vitamin itself is encapsulated by a lipid layer that allows it to be transported directly through your digestive system lining, whether that's the stomach or the intestinal tract. And so it goes right into your bloodstream. It does not cause havoc in your digestive system. And so liposomal vitamin C is a great way to go to get a lot. I typically would take a gram per day of regular vitamin C once I discovered that could help me feel better after I quit drinking. Vitamin D3, or the sun vitamin, is very important also. D3 deficiency is often a root cause of depression for a lot of people in alcohol recovery. The 3 big post-acute withdrawal symptoms are depression, insomnia, and anxiety. And I would say that vitamin D3 deficiency plays a role in all of those things. That's because vitamin D3 levels are necessary for serotonin production. You want to make sure that you're getting enough vitamin D3. I've had private clients who live in Seattle and in other rainy places, and they seem to be the ones who benefit most from vitamin D3. But universally, D3 tends to be depleted by alcohol, chronic consumption of alcohol. And it is a steroid hormone used in many bodily processes. So it's not just like a one-dimensional nutrient. It is, when you start taking D3, especially if you're prone to depression or if you've recently quit drinking, I would say give vitamin D3 a shot. There are a lot of reputable brands out there. Some of the cooler new ones combine it with vitamin K2, which you would also be getting if you did take Legion Triumph. And typically, people want to aim for around 5,000 to 10,000 IU per day. The RDA of vitamin D3 is only 400 IU, which in my opinion is way too low. They've done studies and they've found that people who take 5,000 IU have to take it for a year to restore their levels of vitamin D3. And so it's not like you take it once and you're set. You have to keep taking it continually. I still take vitamin D3 during the winter. In the summer, I tend to get enough. I live in a sunny place, and I try not to wear too high SPF sunscreen or sunglasses all the time. But in the winter, I definitely take vitamin D3, and I notice a benefit. Magnesium was actually a miracle supplement for me after I quit drinking. It's necessary for the activation of over 300 enzymes throughout the body. And it repairs nervous system functioning, it supports energy production, it can alleviate anxiety and insomnia. And alcohol just flushes magnesium out of the body. One drink causes you to excrete 170% more magnesium than usual. So imagine, by the time I quit drinking, I was drinking almost a handle of vodka a day. So, imagine how much you're excreting if only one drink causes you to get rid of 170% more than usual. It's a critical electrolyte. When I started taking magnesium, I immediately felt calmer. I could sleep better. My anxiety went down. I used to have this thing where my left hand would shake when I had alcohol withdrawal, and that followed me a little bit into post-acute withdrawal. So when I started taking magnesium taurate, and I eventually switched to magnesium citrate, which is equally well absorbed. I just like that. The brand that I used was Thorne Research, which is a very, very reputable company. And they have magnesium citrate and magnesium citramalate, both of which are very well absorbed. The magnesium that you'll find in multivitamins, sometimes there's a trace amount. And even in the alcohol recovery formula, sometimes there's a trace amount. But I've found that there's almost never a sufficient dosage of magnesium. And I didn't realize until recently that's because most people who make those formulas are afraid of putting too much in there. Let's say you're taking a gram of magnesium, you'll be fine if you take that for a week, as long as you don't have any existing health issues. But if you were to take a gram of magnesium every day for a year, it could eventually cause toxicity. So magnesium is always going to be a supplement that you're going to have to buy on its own, and you're going to want to get citrate or taurate. There are some other good ones. Glycinate is a decent one, but you don't want to get magnesium oxide because magnesium oxide is flushed out of your system. It's often used to have a laxative effect. But unfortunately, if you go to like CVS and you get magnesium, it's probably going to be magnesium oxide. So you don't want to scrimp on and try to get low quality magnesium. Omega-3 fatty acids are very important because the brain seizes on omega-3s to regenerate its own tissue. It supports nervous system function and positive mood. I've actually had private clients who felt noticeably better as soon as they started taking omega-3s. You want to look for fish oil or krill oil that have over 200 milligrams each of EPA and DHA. Those are the two components of fish oil, of omega-3s, that you want to make sure you have. And for me, I still take omega-3 daily in the form of a supplement called the Triangle. It's omega-3s from wild Alaskan sockeye salmon, but there are all sorts of ways you can get it. I also try to eat as much salmon as I can. It's really good for reducing inflammation. There's some disagreement among experts about how beneficial it is for your heart, although I figure it definitely can't hurt. And the main reason I take it is for mood and reducing inflammation. And I want my brain to have access to the best raw material possible when I'm facilitating neurogenesis through exercise. I'm making new neurons. I want to make sure it's making new brain cells and then coating new membranes with high quality omega-3s, not with potato chip oil. L-glutamine is probably the best supplement in a short-term sense for alcohol cravings. It does a number of things. It actually is a precursor for GABA. It combats hypoglycemia. L-glutamine can be converted into glucose in the brain without causing an insulin spike. And so it can put an end to that vicious cycle of eating sugar, and then a few hours later you feel horrible because your blood sugar has been wiped out by the insulin, and the amino acids in your blood have also been wiped out by the insulin. So you can put an end to sugar cravings and alcohol cravings with L-glutamine. It also repairs your digestive system. L-glutamine is involved in repairing what's called leaky gut, which a lot of people who have drank for a long time have. Leaky gut is usually brought up in the context of people who are sensitive to gluten, but I found that most people who are recovering from alcohol addiction have some degree and all the symptoms and signs of leaky gut, which is caused by alcohol being corrosive to the entire digestive system. So you definitely want to look into L-glutamine if you have alcohol cravings. The best way to take L-glutamine is to take anywhere from 1 to 3 grams and put it under your tongue. So you can break open a capsule. I usually would get the Now brand 1000 milligrams of L-glutamine, and you can break open a capsule, which is kind of a pain, but whatever. Put it under your tongue, and it actually absorbs sublingually. That's the most efficient method by which to take L-glutamine. And you can also just take it in capsule form. If you can get the powder, so it might be a scoop, but I've had private clients who were able to conquer these vicious alcohol cravings that came out of the blue several weeks after they quit drinking by keeping a little baggie of L-glutamine in their purse or in their pocket. I know it sounds sketchy, but it does actually work. It's a very good amino acid. L-tyrosine is another amino acid. It's a building block for the catecholamines, which include dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. You want to use L-tyrosine especially if you struggle with low energy. I had what's called anhedonia after I quit drinking, which meant that I was probably hugely dopamine depleted. I couldn't find motivation to do anything. I just felt stale. I didn't really understand why anyone ever got up to do anything. I'd always project my inner world on other people for some reason, but I was just like, what's the point? Like, everything's so blah. And that immediately started changing when I took L-tyrosine and some other supplements that I'll talk about. L-tyrosine is popularly used to help deal with coffee withdrawal. So people who drink too much coffee will take a little bit of L-tyrosine instead, and it helps to prevent that headache that you would typically get from coffee withdrawal. Coffee boosts dopamine and has a number of other effects, but L-tyrosine can help to counteract that energy crash that people often get when they have too much coffee. Like the other amino acids that we will discuss, and like L-glutamine, L-tyrosine restores natural chemicals in your brain and body rather than making you dependent on its effects. That's a very important point. People are sometimes scared of amino acids, but they are not drugs. What they are doing is restoring your body's natural levels. You don't have to take them forever. You might have to take them for a few weeks or a few months. Some of these supplements I only took for a few weeks. Some of these supplements I took for an entire year. And to this day I take maintenance supplements now, but I don't take most of the supplements on this list. With that said, I am positive that I would not have gotten to the point of tremendous well-being that I got to if I hadn't taken all of these supplements at one point or another, whether in the form of a formula or on their own. But you don't want to ignore amino acids just because they have weird, scary names that often start with L. You want to look into them, and trial and error is the best way to go about all of this. So DL-PHENYLALANINE is another amino acid. It's actually a combination of two. D-phenylalanine, which naturally increases endorphin levels, and L-phenylalanine, which is a precursor for dopamine. So you're getting the benefits of really L-tyrosine and the endorphin precursor at the same time. So DLPA, as I call it, was actually a miracle supplement for me and for many of my private clients. So you can see in the email below, I have a private client saying, this morning I took that amino acid you told me about. That was DLPA. Said, there's no other physical evidence I can attribute to feeling okay right now. I got very little sleep last night and downed a big cup of espresso this morning on an empty stomach. Then I wonder why I'm feeling like I'll lose it. Now, this client had issues with anxiety after he quit drinking. He said he felt 50% better after he took DLPA. So it really is something that helps a lot of people. You'll find a lot of people talking about it for various purposes, but for short-term mood effect, I have to say DLPA is an amazing supplement. You can find it on Amazon for maybe less than $10. It's not very expensive, but it is a wonderful supplement for alcohol recovery. 5-HTP or L-TRYPTOPHAN. Both of these are precursors for natural chemicals that are required for relaxation and sleep. Now, some people respond better to L-TRYPTOPHAN, others to 5-HTP. I happen to respond better to 5-HTP, but serotonin, I didn't realize this until I did research on this. Serotonin is a precursor for melatonin, and so you might do better taking 5-HTP or L-TRYPTOPHAN. Either way, you're increasing your serotonin and therefore you're increasing your melatonin, and you're making it more likely that you're going to balance out any insomnia that you have and feel probably a little bit more relaxed and more confident. So along with magnesium, 5-HTP is the first natural supplement that helped me to sleep better. When I got out of detox, I'd been prescribed a harsh drug called trazodone. I don't mean harsh as in dangerous, but for me it just made me so groggy in the morning. And I actually they gave me a prescription to use it for like 6 weeks after I left detox. And on the second week, I just couldn't take it anymore. And that's one of the reasons I started doing research on natural supplements, because I just needed a natural alternative to the trazodone. I just couldn't do anything in the morning. And I actually had a night where I woke up in the middle of the night feeling crazy. I had like a manic state, and I don't know what the trazodone did, but I looked up its side effects, and that was one of them, having a random manic state. So I didn't want to screw around with that. I found much more success with 5-HTP. Now, with all of that said, if you take an SSRI, antidepressant, you do not want to take 5-HTP or L-TRYPTOPHAN unless you consult with your doctor first, because 5-HTP and L-TRYPTOPHAN raise serotonin levels. SSRIs artificially increase the rate at which your serotonin is firing. So you don't want to have both of those things going on at the same time. So be careful, of course, with all of these supplements. Talk to your doctor first. But 5-HTP and L-TRYPTOPHAN are very useful for people who tend to have serotonin deficiencies after they quit drinking. L-THEANINE is another wonderful amino acid. It's actually contained naturally in green tea, and it balances out the effects of caffeine. So you'll see L-THEANINE sold in supplement form. A lot of people use it. I found it to be very useful after I quit drinking for promoting calmness and relaxation. What it does is it plugs into glutamate receptors in the brain. Glutamate is a stress chemical in your brain. It increases electrical activity, and that surges during alcohol withdrawal, which can contribute to shakiness and panic. And that's not just an acute withdrawal issue. It's also something that happens in post-acute withdrawal. It takes time for your glutamate and your GABA levels to become balanced, and they do balance each other out. Think of a seesaw with your GABA and your glutamate, GABA being the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. So as you can see in this little picture over here, during acute intoxication, when you're drunk, your GABA levels go up, your glutamate goes down, and then your brain gets used to that and adapts so that during alcohol withdrawal, your GABA levels go down and your glutamate goes up, because your brain has learned to compensate for the presence of alcohol, increasing GABA and decreasing glutamate. So that's a big problem for a lot of people, including myself. I had shakiness and anxiety for quite some time after I quit drinking, and L-THEANINE has the opposite effect of as glutamate, and it reduces that stress. N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, is a precursor for glutathione, which is the liver's natural detoxifying antioxidant. It's actually so powerful that ERs use it to reverse liver damage caused by Tylenol overdoses. A lot of people who used to drink a lot have used NAC for anxiety and for liver support. To be honest, I'm not sure why it's so useful for anxiety, but I have a sense that it's because the whole body's connected. It's not like your brain exists in a vacuum. If you improve your liver function, I'm sure you're improving your brain as well. And so that seems to be the reason that NAC is so useful for both liver and brain function. All right, getting ahead of myself here. MUCUNA pruriens. This is an herb that contains a precursor of dopamine called L-DOPA, and MUCUNA pruriens is called velvet bean. I think it's from Africa. It contains antioxidants that work with L-DOPA to enhance your sense of well-being. And as I said, heavy drinkers often have depleted dopamine levels. I definitely did after I quit drinking. And actually, I would drink up to a pot of coffee every day for weeks after I quit drinking. And that's because I had anhedonia, or pleasure deafness. I had low motivation and low energy, and I just needed something. So remember, if you're experiencing these symptoms after you've quit drinking, you're not lazy. The world is not black and white. This is a biochemical phenomenon. And I would highly suggest that you look into MUCUNA pruriens, also L-TYROSINE and DL-PA. They're very useful for these symptoms of post-acute withdrawal. So, you don't want to be drinking coffee in massive quantities for the rest of your life to artificially prop up your dopamine. You want to have things that contain precursors to your natural chemicals so you can reach a state of balance. Milk thistle is a wonderful herb for liver function. It contains a compound called silymarin, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing incorrectly, but this compound supports liver function. It's actually been shown to reverse some of the effects of poisonous compounds such as alcohol, such as poisonous mushrooms. It's been shown in some studies to regenerate liver tissue, and it is used in ERs to treat mushroom poisoning. So it is very powerful. A lot of drinkers who know about milk thistle, people who drink too much, will take it to try to mitigate the effects of accumulated alcohol damage. I can't say that it's very effective for that purpose, but it's probably better than nothing. The best thing to do is to obviously quit drinking and then try to mitigate any damage that you've done to your liver. Try to restore balance with the help of milk thistle. Passion flower is a fantastic herb for reducing anxiety, insomnia, and inflammation. GABA is the brain's natural Valium. It is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. Passion flower has been shown to support GABA levels. It's actually been shown to be as effective as a benzodiazepine. I believe it was oxazepam in that study, but without the side effects of the benzodiazepine. So instead of making people loopy, it just made them feel relaxed and able to sleep. And because it is a natural herb with no known side effects other than maybe sleepiness, it is just more gentle than benzodiazepine. So I wish I had known about it when I had quit drinking. I would have spent probably less time on the benzodiazepine and more time using natural remedies. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting you replace a benzodiazepine you've been prescribed with passion flower. It's not going to be as strong, but it is definitely an effective herb. Rhodiola rosea is a very good herb for fixing stress chemical imbalances. It is an adaptogen. So adaptogens don't necessarily have the same effect for every person. They can make you more focused if your imbalance is causing you to not be focused. It can make you more energetic or relaxed if your particular imbalance is causing a deficiency in energy or ability to relax. It helps to reduce stress by supporting adrenal function especially. It probably also supports thyroid function. But I use rhodiola occasionally to this day for preventing midday slumps. So if I know that I'm going to have a big day ahead and I don't want to have a slump, I don't always have a slump, but let's say I'm traveling and I know that at 3 p.m. I'm going to be tired, I will take rhodiola in the morning and I will be able to power my way through. And it's unique in this regard because it's not a stimulant at all. It just gives you the endurance that you need to get through the day. And of course, I'm speaking now as someone who hasn't drank in 4 years. It had a much more pronounced effect in the post-acute withdrawal phase. So in that 6 months to a year after I quit drinking, when I discovered it, it was like night and day after I started taking it. So I highly recommend it. If you want to become more stress resistant, give Rhodiola rosea a shot. Last but not least is an herb called ashwagandha. which is another adaptogen. It's been used to support both adrenal and thyroid function, and it helps to rebalance hormone levels, which do tend to be majorly out of sorts for chronic drinkers. My hormones were definitely out of sorts, and in my experience, ashwagandha was as effective for stress as benzodiazepines. So I still take it occasionally to counteract sleep deprivation from travel. I've actually used it. I drank too much coffee once and I feel a little weird, and I took an ashwagandha and it totally counteracted the effects of too much coffee. So it is powerful. And of course, none of these supplements are going to work the same way for any given person. So I'm not trying to make any grand promises in terms of specific effects, but all of these supplements can be useful depending on your biochemistry. And so you'll want to give them a try if you want to feel better after you've quit drinking. And, just trial and error is the best way. I tried a lot of supplements that were not useful for me that I have friends who swear by. An example being holy basil. That's something that I've had friends, another adaptogen actually, I have friends who swear by it for sleep, and yet for me, I noticed nothing. So this is not a comprehensive list. I want to go over some notable mentions here. The first of which being CBD oil, because this is the newest supplement to come to my attention for the purpose of alcohol recovery, and it also happens to be like the most popular. It's like its popularity, it's taking off like wildfire. I get emails all the time from people saying that they haven't had alcohol cravings ever since they started taking CBD oil, and I have an article on my website, Fit Recovery, about why this might be the case. And so there's some interesting studies on CBD. You might want to look into that. I have an article about the use of CBD for alcohol withdrawal, and I get into the research there. So check that out. Nicotinamide riboside is an interesting supplement that I've actually taken recently. It's a form of vitamin B3, and it's supposed to be the oral form of those NAD plus infusions that people are doing, those $600 infusions that a lot of people are doing to counteract aging, as well as reset their brains from addiction. And so that's a very interesting concept. It's also interesting because Bill Wilson, one of the founders of AA, decided to experiment with high-dose niacin, which is another form of B3, and he was convinced that it could alleviate depression and stress, basically all of the symptoms that we recognize as protracted alcohol withdrawal, or PAWS, post-acute withdrawal. So anyway, I've noticed some benefits from nicotinamide riboside, including increased energy and enhanced sense of well-being. So that might be something worth looking into. SAMe is another amazing supplement that I actually never took, and I'm kind of bummed that I didn't know about it at the time, but it's been known to support both liver function and brain function. I've had private clients who have used it to get rid of depression and also to support liver function. It's as good, probably even better than milk thistle for that purpose, so it's definitely worth looking into. Taurine is an amino acid that a lot of people swear by for decreasing stress and enhancing relaxation. Lithium orotate is a very interesting supplement. It sounds scary, but lithium is actually a trace mineral that we need in some quantity, and so I take lithium orotate occasionally. If I ever feel like I'm too wired, I'll take lithium orotate and I can relax. It's supposed to have the effect of mildly increasing serotonin and also having some other subtle effects on the brain that allow us to relax more. So if you ever have those manic states or you feel like you are too wired, then maybe you should look into lithium orotate. Now, I want to say supplement quality absolutely matters. So you want to make sure you're getting the best quality of these supplements. A great example is the one I gave for magnesium. The low quality supplements are all magnesium oxide, which you're better off taking nothing because it's just going to go right through your system. And so the better quality magnesium being magnesium citrate. There are some supplement brands that I like better than others, so you'll want to head to my site, Fit Recovery, and check out which ones I've taken. I talk more about this on my site. And also, there's no need to just go order all of these supplements now. I know some people get excited and they want to go get everything, but find what works for you. I think of biochemical repair as a sort of adventure or a journey, and it's really individualized. And so because we are all biochemically unique, it's up to us to just figure out over time like what works for us. And if you take a lot of things all at once, you might not discover what's actually helping you. So certainly, I'm not saying you need to start with vitamin C one week and then D3 the week after that. With the basic nutrients and even the basic amino acids, it's pretty straightforward. You can take those together, and there aren't interactions between these things that I've listed. But with some of these herbs like, MUCUNA pruriens or rhodiola or ashwagandha, I would always take those individually just to see what reaction I would have, what benefits I might have from them. And then, over time, when I saw them in formulas or blends, I would be better able to know what to expect. So thank you so much for watching this video. You can learn a lot more at my website, fit-recovery.com. Don't forget the dash. I'm also on YouTube. You can subscribe to my Fit Recovery channel. I am recently on Facebook at Fit and Recovered, and also on Twitter at Fit and Recovered, and on Instagram at Chris Scott FR. So that's it for tonight. It's a late Saturday night. 5 years ago I would have been out partying and being an idiot, and I'm way happier sharing this information with you. I hope that you've had a good weekend, and stay tuned for more.